Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this recap video I want to pick up on where we left off yesterday, and that is with an example of today's clearing range trade. So there's usually two trades that I'm interested in every time that I am looking to day trade the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow. And some of the questions that I've received since that recap video on Friday was, okay, Raghee, why those three markets? Can I do this in crude? Can I do this in gold? And while technically the clearing, the first, say, 20 to 30 minutes after the bell rings for a market and the bulk of the volume and the bulk of the participation comes in a very dramatic, a very quick way, those markets do well with this kind of clearing psychology. It has nothing to do with market trends. It has nothing to do with really the trend that preceded the clearing or the open. It's its own world. In fact, I even tell my traders, draw a vertical line right at 9:30 because it's a whole new world, folks. Okay? So at that point, I know, as we talked about in the previous setup video, the recap that we did Friday, is I know that I have my low in place and I know that I have my high in place, and I have a slight bullish bias probably that I'm inheriting into the open, but that's not necessarily going to make me want to buy. I just know that that's part of the psychology, but it's not going to necessarily make me want to buy. In fact, I'm still leaning towards this larger sort of soft resistance that's happening on the daily. But I'm really emphasizing the trends and sort of the clash because the clearing range, it's its own world. We just follow the clearing range trade, breakout or breakdown. So even though I have a slightly bullish bias, I just have to accept that approximately about 10:35 today, so 35 minutes after the clearing concludes, and I've got this high waiting up here at basically 76.5, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. Finally at 10:35, we break that level. Now, I would like to see most of the time an MACD that's positive when that happens. That does help. All right. And notice that the breakdown never did trigger. So we only had one trade that triggered, and it was this one right there, the break to the upside. So now the idea is to take advantage of any movement to the upside. But again, I want to emphasize a few things. I'm not necessarily looking at market internals at 10:35. However, for those of you that did ask, if I could get a plus 600, plus 700 tick reading at the breakout, that's fine. I would like to see that kind of momentum there. What else would I like to see? I wouldn't call it a market internal, but I would like to see the MACD histogram positive. So in this case, it's looking at green histogram bars. So these are other ways to confirm the entry. You know, alternatives that not alternatives, but additionally what else I will look for to feel more confident about that buy. I'd also like to see some of the heavily weighted names within the S&P also breaking to the upside. Names like Apple, Microsoft. So a layout like this also helps. What are some of these heavily weighted names doing at 10:35 while the S&P is breaking that clearing range high? That's another thing that I'll think about. So you can think about, you know, what I call the multi-chart, the S&P multi. What are the heavily weighted names doing? So this is a pretty good checklist to kind of give you a little bit more insight into the actual entry. So that's another nuance there. And so today you can see what happened. We floated around for a while and ultimately ended up shooting higher. Now, what I'm going to cover in the premium video, now that we've covered the entry, right? That's just one part of it. Timing, 9:30 to 10, mark the clearing, entry. So we've covered this now really thoroughly. And in the premium video, I'm going to start to cover the details of stop loss placement, when we can be aggressive about the stop, and also profit target placement. So I'll see you in the premium video. We'll walk through some more of the nuances of managing this trade. And for those of you that are just learning how this works here in this recap video. Here's a second video kind of following up on that very same concept we talked about Friday. I love showing examples. I think that's a great way to train the eyes, and I hope that is helping you guys with this particular entry setup.